The first Vincennes marker in this video is titled Vincennes, so named in honor of French-Canadian Sir Vincennes, 1700-1736. In 1732, he built a fort here in Vincennes to protect the claims of France in the New World. In 1736, Vincennes was burned at the stake by Chickasaw Indians near the present town of Fulton, Tennessee. This historical marker is located at 2nd and Main Street, the address 12 South 2nd Street, Vincennes, Indiana. Second historical marker in Vincennes, Indiana is for Mary Clark, born circa 1801. Clark, a slave, was purchased in Kentucky in 1814 by B.J. Harrison, brought to Vincennes in 1815, and indentured as his servant. In 1816, G.W. Johnston purchased her indenture for 20 years. In 1821, Clark and attorney Armory Kinney petitioned Knox County Circuit Court to terminate her indenture because she was held illegally as a slave. On the back of Mary Clark's historical marker, it stated, Circuit Court ruled Clark freely entered into her indenture and had to complete it. Upon appeal, Indiana Supreme Court ruled in November 1821 that Clark's suit proved her service was involuntary, violating Indiana's 1816 Constitution. Court discharged her from service, ruling contributed to end an indenture servitude in Indiana. Clark died in 1840. This Vincennes historical marker is located on the Knox County Courthouse property at 111 North 7th Street, Vincennes, Indiana. This Vincennes, Indiana historical marker was placed at 2nd and Main Street for Gimbel's department store. A Bavarian Jewish immigrant, Adam and Solomon Gimbel, worked as peddlers before establishing a dry goods and clothing store here in Vincennes by 1848. Regular advertising and quality goods drew customers and the business prospered. The company moved to Milwaukee in 1887, expanding to Philadelphia in 1894 and New York City in 1910. In the 1920s, Gimbel's went public and acquired Saks & Company. Gimbel's became one of the largest department stores in the United States by the late 1920s, with over 50 locations nationwide by the 1960s. It appeared in film and television shows such as Miracle on 34th Street in 1947 and I Love Lucy 1950s. Local business owners used the Gimbel name for stores here into the 1980s, though they were separate from the iconic national chain. This next Vincennes historical marker is at 1st and Main, and it says Vincennes and the American Revolution. After taking Kaskaskia on July 5, 1778, George Rogers Clark, acting under Virginia authority, sent Father Pierre Gibault as his envoy to Vincennes. Gibault convinced the villagers there to take an oath of loyalty to the Americans. In early August, Captain Leonard Helm arrived to take command of Fort Sackville on December 17th. British forces under Colonel Henry Hamilton recaptured the fort. Clark, with some 160 men, reached Vincennes on February 23, 1779, after an 18-day march through flooded country. The move caught Hamilton by surprise. 2 days later, he surrendered. The fort, renamed Patrick Henry, remained in American hands. This next Vincennes historical marker, titled The Beatty Place, built about 1830 by Samuel Judah, distinguished pioneer, lawyer, who won the famous land grant case for Vincennes University in the U.S. Supreme Court. Occupied from 1848 to 1865 by Dr. John Isidore Beatty, builder of the 3-story addition. It is thought to have been the first hospital in the state of Indiana. This next Vincennes historical marker, titled Vincennes Carnegie Library, designed by local architect John B. Bayard in Gothic style, built 1917 to 1918, dedicated 1919 with 13,518 books and 4,207 registered borrowers. As Vincennes Public Library located in City Hall since 1889, modern edition 1976-1977, became Knox County Library 1978. Library has played major role in the community's education, cultural development. Included in Vincennes Historic District, listed in National Register of Historic Places 1974. One of 1,679 libraries built in U.S. with funds from philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. Indiana built more Carnegie libraries than any other state. This Vincennes historical marker, titled William Henry Harrison and Lewis and Clark Expedition. Harrison became governor of Indiana Territory 1800. He administered government of District of Louisiana, 1804-1805. In Vincennes, he served as a contact during the expedition. Surviving records document his support and his involvement in decisions about Western Indian chiefs visiting Washington. The backside, titled William Henry Harrison and Lewis and Clark Expedition, in 1806, on their way to the Falls of the Ohio and then Washington after the expedition, Lewis and Clark stopped in Vincennes. Lewis wrote from Vincennes on October 30th to Secretary of War Henry Dearborn. The expedition explored lands of the Louisiana Purchase and the Pacific Northwest, 1803-1806. This historical marker is located on Graceland. Harrison's Mansion, Jefferson Academy, and other historic buildings are also in this same location. One of Vincennes' newest historical marker is on the north end of the Riverwalk. During the American Revolution, Vincennes was defended by French militia and Piankeshaw Indians. One leader was Francos, the son of Tobacco. In 1779, he helped Colonel George Rogers Clark capture Fort Sackville from the British. The next year, the British sent Potawatomi raiders against Vincennes. On June 17, 1780, as they prepared to strike, they were attacked and defeated by Piankeshaw, but the son of Tobacco died in the battle. And Clark reported he was buried with honors of war. He appeared in all his conduct as if he had the American interest much at heart. This Vincennes historical marker, located at 1st and Hart Street, or the exact address is 17 Hart Street, titled Chief Tecumseh, 1768-1813. The great Shawnee leader lives on as a symbol of native pride and pan-Indian identity. In the years 1810 and 1811, Tecumseh defended the rights of his people in meeting with Vincennes with William Henry Harrison, governor of the Indiana Territory. This Vincennes historical marker, titled Historic Pantheon Theater, a state-of-the-art facility, the Pantheon Theater opened on May 16, 1921, with the Broadway show Midnight Whirl. It provided patrons with news and entertainment, including vaudeville acts and moving pictures like Ben-Hur. The theater's location in the region facilitated the exchange of arts and culture, like African-American folk music performed by composer W.C. Handy. On the backside of this marker, in his youth, comedian and Vincennes native Red Skelton explored his budding interest in performance at the Pantheon Theater. Acting in a 1929 minstrel show, he performed there again in 1939 after receiving commercial success. The theater drew other renowned entertainers such as jazz composer Duke Ellington, conductor John Philip Sousa, and blues singer Sarah Martin. These markers are located at 428 Main Street in Vincennes, Indiana. This Vincennes historical marker, titled the Old Cathedral French and Indian Cemetery, 1750-1846, contains the graves, mostly unmarked, of some 4,000 inhabitants of early Vincennes, including soldiers and patriots of the American Revolution who helped Colonel George Rogers Clark to capture nearby Fort Sackville in 1779. The cemetery marks the site of the log church where the people of Vincennes swore on oath to allegiance to the Republic of Virginia and the United States on July 20, 1778, during the siege of Fort Sackville, February 23 to 24, 1779. Clark's men took up position at the church and cemetery. It was at the church that Colonel Clark and the British commander, Lieutenant Governor Henry Hamilton, negotiated terms of surrender on February 24th. The surrender of Fort Sackville occurred the next day, February 25, 1779. As a result, Hamilton's plan to crush the revolution in the West was checked and a basis was laid for the United States to later claim the area northwest of the Ohio River, from which were eventually formed the states of Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, and part of Minnesota. The old cathedral and cemetery are located in the Vincennes Historic District, which was placed on the National Registry of Historical Places on December 31, 1974. This Vincennes historical marker, titled the Old French House, home of the French fur trader Michael Brulette, 1774 to 1838. French Creole cottage built circa 1806 is typical of post-on-seal construction technique used by the French settlers in Mississippi Valley during the 18th and early 19th centuries. Restorations, 1974, 1976. Located near Graceland and other historical buildings on the Vincennes University campus.